Before we get to the video, please like, comment, subscribe, share it to that uncle who's a communist. And if he isn't, he will be.
Don't forget to follow us on Patreon at patreon.com/revolutionary rhetoric. And Revolutionary Rhetoric is an affiliate of the Anti-Capitalist Podcast Network.
All right, let's get to the video.
Vance is a bad example because, we're going to talk about Vance next. But, he is, just a grifter and a con man and kind of just, whatever way the wind's blowing, just riding coattails to as much fame and money as you can.
Many of the Democrats are like that as well.
Most of the Democrats are like all the Democrats are like that. I mean, most politicians have that in them. Some of them just actually do believe what they're saying. Some of them don't. There's a really funny scene in The Boys. If anybody watches The Boys, the whole show is about the woke mob versus an Antifa versus MAGA and QAnon people. That's what The Boys is about, kind of. And there's all this rhetoric that goes back and forth, and then one of the characters goes to this private event at this politician's house, which is they have all of the leading people from all parties. And he starts talking about this the woke agenda, whatever. He's like, "Oh, save that shit for the news channels. None of us actually believe that bullshit." And it's they're all in it together, both from Republicans. I just thought that was funny because that's probably what it's like for the most part. I do believe that there's still a lot of these people that I don't think some politicians would go to a ball with Democrats and make nice. I think some of them would be no. But
yeah. No, I remember somebody's telling me the first 3 seasons all the fucking conservatives loved it. Yeah. And then the 4th season they finally
realized what the point of the show was.
Yeah, they were
just
making
fun
of
MAGA people. Yeah.
And so I
it's
thought
pretty
that was
funny.
fun, hilarious.
Watch
I've never
The Boys.
seen it. I kind of want to watch it.
Watch it. It's very funny. It's this most recent episode was so fucking funny about Antifa and stuff. It doesn't matter. The point is, new episode came out today. I'll have to check that out. And then so we're gonna talk about the RNC. Let's move on to that next. So the RNC happens 2 days later. So Trump gets shot in the ear, and then 2 days later, he has to go to the biggest Republican thing of every 4 years. It's the Republican National Convention. It's in Milwaukee. It's where it's now where everyone's coming together. It's where the vice presidential nominee pick finally happened. It's J.D. Vance. We've kind of spoiled that already, but J.D. Vance is now the vice president. I will say, did you see? I just saw this right before we started recording. It was a very funny thing, and I don't know if it's real or not. I think it might be, where it was trying to lock down a vice presidential debate time slot or whatever, and the Trump campaign says we're not going to commit because we don't know who the vice president could be. It could be it'll be Newsom or Gretchen Whitmer or whoever President elect Kamala Harris decides to choose. And I'm like, is that real? Is that really just the Trump campaign guy throwing hella shade that Biden's going to be dead by then? Because that's pretty funny if it is.
That's pretty good, man. That's pretty good.
That's why they're saying they're not going to do a vice presidential debate because they don't know who the vice president elect or the nominee is going to be, which is pretty funny. Anyway, JD Vance. We could talk a bit about JD Vance. We kind of mentioned it already. Yeah, he's definitely a con man, a grifter, just a fake, a fraud. He wrote a book, and his whole persona is based around this Appalachian kind of hillbilly rags to riches story, which is obviously complete bullshit. He came from a suburban middle class family. He had a nice house. I was reading he had golf lessons, and then he went to Yale law school and stuff. This guy's he's not the guy that everyone is the new narrative around him is drug addicted mom, in the trailer parks of Appalachia, Mountain Dew and OxyContin type, that persona, that stereotype of the Appalachia. He is now feeding into that stereotype, claiming that heritage.
That's
which is
so typical.
Yeah, which is what you had just mentioned. Yeah, which is very typical politician. No, he had a suburban middle class life. Like I said, golf lessons and Yale. This guy is privileged as anyone else is.
There's a few things about him. I mean, a lot of people, even from the Republican side, don't think he is fit to become vice president because this is his literal first term. Yeah. So he's in the middle of his first term as a senator, which is his first, I think, ever political.
I actually don't know. I don't know if he did anything rural in Ohio.
I have no clue.
Prior to that, I can look it up.
I just know that he has very, very little experience politically, and he already has Ohio and kind of the Rust Belt set. He has that in a chokehold. So there's no reason for Trump to pick somebody like Vance. Realistically, it doesn't really bring him many opportunities. But what I will say is that it does bring him a character that he can manipulate and contort to have his own view, as if he's made of clay, right? He can manipulate his mind and groom him to be like the next president in the view of Trump.
Yeah.
Because if he is a con man, he just has to follow how Trump does things, and he will succeed basically. And since he's such a con man, he'll also adapt to other ways. Like if something's going wrong, this is not a good look right now, he could adapt and move.
Yeah, whichever way the wind blows. Yeah.
Exactly. So that's one positive thing for Trump about Vance, is that he can manipulate him how he wants. He doesn't have much experience. It's kind of like a power dynamic there. But it's also kind of just sad because Vance has not been a fan of Trump in the past. Until very recently, actually, Vance has said many things. Maybe we're gonna pull up the quotes here.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is to your point. That's true. This is in the past. JD Vance has been very outspoken against Trump. He is a self-proclaimed never Trumper. Specifically, he said, "quote I'm a never Trump guy." In an interview with Charlie Rose in 2016. As somebody who doesn't like Trump myself, I understand where Trump's voters come from, but I also don't like Trump himself, and that made me realize that maybe I'm not quite part of either world totally. So yeah, earlier on, and then here's some more quotes. "My God, what an idiot!" Quote, he called him, quote, "America's Hitler," end quote.
So the guy is vice president right now, called the so-called presidential candidate Hitler, but he's his vice president. So what does it make him, like Himmler?
Yeah. So, that's a fair point.
So,
and like Mr. Trump is unfit for our nation's highest office. I can't stomach Trump. I mean, this guy, like, it goes on and on. This guy has just been consistently anti-Trump his whole life, but this just kind of plays into the fact that, yeah, he's just a wherever the wind blows type guy.
Exactly. Because he realized if he wants to be anything larger in the Republican Party, he has to fucking shift.
Yeah, and then we learned this during the campaign, right? Like, Trump is the Republican Party, whether you like it or not. If you're a Republican, Trump is the Republican Party. And so you got to get on board or you're going to get steamrolled over. And we learned, like, DeSantis and Haley and everybody that was kind of a never Trumper that tried to, like, fight back against that. They all lost, and Trump's the guy.
This is something random. I kind of popped up in my head. There is a video that I saw earlier today with RFK on the phone with Trump, trying to get him basically a position in his cabinet.
RFK in Trump's cabinet?
Yeah.
I bet you that would be that sounds like exactly something Trump would do to, like, show that he's, like, bipartisan or something, is, like, give it to somebody who's, fucking like RFK. I've been sending you RFK's ads.
I know, they're fucking ridiculous.
I am obsessed with RFK these days. What a fucking psychopath!
Oh my god,
I love it.
But speaking about Vance and Trump
we
and the
have
Republican Party,
we have that goofy ad too. If you want to watch this, do you want to do this now?
Yeah, let's do. Well, why not?
Get this out of the way. Here's an ad from JD Vance's Senate seat from 2020 he ran for Senate, or no, 2022. Yeah, whenever he ran for Senate. Yeah, the one and only. I looked it up. Yeah, that's his one and only thing. He got out. He went to Yale. Got out. He was a Marine. Got out. Ran for Senate. He's been in Senate for a couple years.
He looks like, real quick, he looks like Derek from Step Brothers if he gained some weight. And I feel like Derek would be this guy.
So many memes like, "What does this man mean to you?" And it's like a white nationalist Care Bear, like all kinds of like goofy shit. All right, ready?
All right.
Are you a racist? Do you hate Mexicans? The media calls us racist for wanting to build Trump's wall. They censor us, but it doesn't change the truth. Joe Biden's open border is killing Ohioans, with more illegal drugs and more Democrat voters pouring into this country. This issue is personal. I nearly lost my mother to the poison coming across our border. No child should grow up an orphan. I'm JD Vance, and I approve this message because whatever they call us, we will put America first.
So what's funny is, like, this is for his Senate run in his area.
Yeah.
And which I think was
it's in Ohio.
Yeah, it's in Ohio.
Ohio.
Ohio. And he nearly lost. Trump had to come in and basically vouch for the guy to save his ass.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people, again, bringing it back, was like, why would you pick this guy? He is not an asset. He was a liability because you literally had to come in and save his ass in a place that was already red-leaning. Like the fact that you couldn't win a red-leaning state as a Republican.
Yeah, and also it would be necessary to mention the whole Peter Thiel of it all. The conservative kind of like mega donor who basically like bankrolls and buys candidates paid for and bought Vance's campaign, and like it was Peter Thiel's money that like allowed Vance to win. He gave him $10 million. He set up a $10 million like super PAC or whatever for Ohio for that election, and Peter Thiel is kind of like the puppeteer behind Vance, pulling the strings of Vance's kind of thing. So like Vance is in many ways like bought and paid for. He's been kind of like bought by Trump, bought by Peter Thiel. He is not his own man. He is not like, you know, he's not a working class kind of guy. He like we said earlier, he has that book, Hillbilly Elegy, which is like supposed to kind of paint this image prior to his Senate run of like him being like, you know, a man of the people. He mentioned in that ad that his mom suffered from drug addiction, which is by all accounts is true. I doubt that the southern border is the reason his mom was addicted in Appalachia country or Ohio. So it's just, you know, I can't get a job because of Mexicans or whatever. It's like, well, maybe you're just unemployable.
Are you a racist?
Yeah, and also maybe capitalism has something to do with that, right? Like,
no,
no,
it's because the southern border wall is not up yet.
Yeah,
and he's like, they can call me a racist.
I had that conversation with somebody when I was visiting my family of like how capitalism is like. They were talking about the quality of food at all these restaurants. It's just like it's just awful now. Everything's awful now. They went and got a breakfast sandwich at a fast food restaurant and it just tasted bad. And I'm like, yeah, it's just capitalism. And they're like, that's not capitalism. That's Biden or whatever. And I'm like, dude, my guy, like what? Like no. And then I had to explain to them. I had to explain to them like how basic economy is, like supply and demand. And then like if you are,
it's like talking to a child.
it is. And
it's like talking to a child.
I was just like, no, it's about like cutting costs. Like you want to increase profits, you're at the federally minimum mandated wage you can pay your employees. What other ways do you cut costs? By the quality. You find us cheaper meat producer or whatever. And over time, the meat producer wants to cut costs. He's going to find cheaper wholesale meat or whatever. And then the cattle rancher, they want to cut costs. They're going to find cheaper feed. And the feed producer, they're going to cut costs. They want to so it's just that's the actual trickle down economics of like trickle down quality through a supply chain. And I don't know, I'm preaching the choir. You guys understand that, but like if you ever thought of it that way, like it's all about maximizing profits. So down every step of the way on take any item and then follow the parts that make that item. You're going to get to just the lowest common denominator of quality. And that's why capitalism is the root cause of all of our shit breaking and all of this food tasting bad and all of the microplastics in our nut sacks and stuff. It's all about capitalism.
The reason why you got microplastics in your nutsack
is capitalism, baby. Not Biden. And to all the libs, it's not Trump. It doesn't matter.
The whole fucking system.
It doesn't matter. It's all capitalism.
Wrong.
Yeah, you're wrong.